You are now listening to the Man Bites Dog podcast with your hosts R.M.L and Kount Fif.
And here we are. Thank you for joining us for the first of many podcasts for Man Bites Dog Records.
Yeah.
We are your hosts. That's Kount Fif, and I am R.M.L, Ryan, the mostly decent. Whatever.
Kount Fif.
So we're going to be talking to you about the history of Man Bites Dog Records on this first podcast. When we started, why we started, the name, all the behind-the-scenes stories. We're going to tell as many as we can, and then at the end of this episode, we're going to have a guest. So let's get into it. The label started in 2005. We were a show promotion company first, and that came out of necessity. Originally, I was making a documentary about hip-hop. It was called Off the Ground. The documentary was really focused on independent hip-hop, and the way to really get interviews was to go to shows. I was working with a promoter in DC. He was booking a lot of shows. We had a lot of really good interviews. And then his show attendance started drying up. So with that, he wasn't able to continue to do shows. So there goes the interviews. So we started booking some of our own shows out of a necessity to finish the documentary. And what started one way, it led to something else, because we had some success in the beginning. The first big show we did was Lewis Logic and Glue, and it was a big show. We put it on a venue called Jack's in Springfield.
Big ups.
And it was a really good show. We had about 275 people come out, and we were blown away.
The venue was wild, man.
So we went on to do, the next show was the Capadonna show. This is actually kind of the introduction of how Kount Fif and everything kind of came about, because I think Keith saw that flyer, right?
He happened to find a flyer of a Capadonna show at the Firehouse in Fairfax, VA. He was like, man, they brought Capadonna to Fairfax.
Yeah, there's a small venue. It was a couple of blocks from the campus of George Mason called the Firehouse, and we definitely brought Capadonna there. After that, we did a couple more shows, and I was actually out promoting one of those shows down in DC.
Yep, at 930 Club.
And that's how I would end up meeting Kount Fif.
This was a Jizza and Buckshot show, and it was a late show. It was or early show. I'm sorry, because they were booking two shows in a night.
They split the tour. It was called the Best Damn Rap Tour, and Jizza was the headline, and then you had Vast Air, Vortal Mega, C-Ray's Walls.
Oh, well, no, Jizza and Buckshot shows at 930 Club where you were promoting the Best Damn
Right,
Rap
but that
tour,
was, the tour was originally with Jizza and Vast on it, and they split it when they got to the DC market.
Really?
Yeah, I ended up...
Oh, and that's how you ended up getting
correct.
it.
That's
wow,
how we ended
you never
up...
told me that. I don't remember.
We ended up actually picking up, we paid a little bit more money to Domingo to get it billed as Cannibal Ox.
Yep.
We had to pay a little bit extra to have it be an official Cannibal Ox show.
He was there. I was there at the show. You
Yep.
know what I mean? Like, that was the first show we came to, because we were supposed to go to, like, New York or something. It was Memorial Day week. It was like May. So it was like Memorial Day weekend, and we were supposed to go, and then instead we went to the Vast Air. We went to the show at Jack's that you put on for the Best Damn Rap show. And we were there, man. And, Vortal was there. I mean, that show was incredible. I mean, it was really dope seeing a lot of these really cool underground MCs come down from New York and rock in VA, not just DC, but VA.
So we did that show, and I think it was the next show I did that you handed me the CD.
Mm-hmm.
I
got your information at that show, and then it was the very next show that I brought, a little
and I think
short
it was
demo.
the next
like
show. Was that
jams.
the deck? Was that the deck show? It must have been we did a show with Inspect the Deck, Planet Asia, Afu Ra.
It was definitely that show.
Okay, yeah. And we did that show. That was a packed show.
That's nuts, man. I mean, Afu Ra,
Deck, that was an incredible show.
Capadonna
Deck did
out.
He opened up with the Above the Clouds verse.
Yeah.
And it was packed. And
I mean,
This is 2005. So this is the height of Woo. I think Differently was just about to come out. So this is right around that time. We did the show. You came up to me. You handed me a CD. I was busy at that show.
Think Differently, I think it was already out by then.
Was it already out?
Yeah, I think it came out earlier than that. But whatever, it doesn't matter. Anyways.
So you handed me the CD. I went back. I took a listen to it later on. Now, I thought that it was actually you were the rapper.
I know I just told the same thing. I was like, he actually thought I was the rapper.
Yeah, there was no clear, communication made about.
I did tell you. I was like, this is
pretty
my
loud because
whatever. You're not gonna remember certain details, man.
So I get the CD, I hear it, and it's actually an artist named Impulse, and Kount Fif is doing the production. Now, what he hadn't known at the time is probably about a year prior, I had heard his production already, Lord Betta.
Right.
I had met one time with Lord Betta. I actually met him at a kebab house over by the mall.
Right.
And I'd listened to some of his music from a mutual friend. And the two songs I had liked on the demo that he had sent to me were actually produced by
Fif. You didn't know that.
I didn't know that at the time.
You just heard the beats. It was like, the songs. It was like,
that's the way the universe kind of works. That it just keeps bringing somebody around.
Yep.
And so I got that. I ended up calling. There was a number on the CD, and that number was actually for Impulse.
Yeah. The CD I gave R.M.L. was was just a couple of demo songs and whatever, and I'd put his information on it, you know what I mean? Because he's the MC. I'm playing humble. I'm just trying to, I'm the producer, but I'm there at these shows. I'm not gonna, if I see something like this as an opportunity, I'm like, wow, this is incredible. Like, this man is bringing all my favorite, underground artists to the area and doing shows, and he's got opening acts already, but
we had started the label already. Before I'd met Fif, we had started the label. First couple acts that we signed to the label, Mike the Finite, Seize Mics actually. It was Educated Consumers at the time. So it was Educated Consumers with Seize Mics, and tease, it's the East Coast Kid. We first managed them, and then we ended up signing them to the label at a certain point. Also Flex Matthews and Damu the Fudge Monk.
Yeah.
So they were working on an album together in the very beginning of the label. Met Fif, met Impulse. Met Fif, met Impulse, started working on music. Pretty much we had a song that we did. There was an artist, his name was Lord Honeydew.
Yeah.
Lord Honeydew, he was a college kid. And we had known him from these other kids named the Echo Boomers. They had introduced us to his music. And his production was very lo-fi, very doom sounding kind of. So we thought this would be interesting, have some kind of lo-fi production with Capadonna on it. We brought Cap over to the studio, recorded the verse with Lord Honeydew there. That kind of went differently. And at the end of it, we decided it would probably be better off to move in just a different direction. So,
didn't dude just stop rapping or something? Didn't he quit?
I'm
pretty sure you told us he quit, and he's like, you know what? We had this song with Capadonna. He quit. Like, he stopped rapping. He just, or we just went our separate ways. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if you were, like I said, I don't know if you guys
it was so long ago. This is 2005, so
again,
you're talking 17 years ago.
Yeah.
So regardless of what happened, I turned to Fif and I said to him, look, I've got this Capadonna. We need to rebeat it.
Yep.
I'll give you 24 hours.
Gave me 24 hours. That's what I remember.
Right. Yep. Yeah. I just read about Jay-Z.
I'm the ninth one.
Yeah,
where he made it on a plane.
So I had said that
from the Black Album. Yep.
I had read about people under pressure sometimes can produce amazing things.
So you like to put people to the test, and I love a challenge.
So we started out that way. That was our first way of working together. First song. So it's called Capitalizing. If you go back and you look, it's on Impulse's Greatest Hits. And that's a really that was our first song together. We started that way, and we started working.
Yep. I remember I went and got some records that, you know what I mean? at my man's. I hit my man up, got some records. He was like, yo, I need some records. I want to sample some different things. I want to find something different for this. And ended up making a gem for it, and everybody was down with it and thought it was hot. The beat was dope, and there you go. History is.
The exciting thing about making music is the fact that you can just make it. You can get the artistic inspiration, and then you can work hard in the moment, and you can make it. So right after we had started everything, we started working on a project with Impulse. It was called Twisted Sun. The project would never actually come out. I mean, it was fully finished at one point.
Yeah.
So that's what we started working on, was Twisted Sun. Now, at the same time, I grew up a big fan of Zorro. When I was a kid, I was really into Zorro, and I was really into pirates in general. So I thought pirates were just badass. There was a terrible 80s movie. It's called Ice Pirates. I didn't know any better as a kid. I just liked it. So I always wanted to do a project called the Swashbuckler. I thought it was, Swashbuckler was kind of just badass name. So I approached Fifth early on and said, let's work on this. Let's work on a compilation. And it gives us something to build towards as we're meeting people, connecting with people, and trying to work with the people that we want to make music with. And I think one of the first songs that we did on that was Never Ending.
Yep.
And that was a matter of us driving to Baltimore.
We did. I think we had some songs with copy. I mean, this was the main. This was interesting because it was like this was how we started because, Impulse was the first thing that we started doing together because that's where you were like we were the missing link that you needed to finish. You know what I mean? To really get this whole movement going. You know what I mean? And then the Swashbuckler came about, and we started building some songs for it. But yeah, I believe
Yeah, the Swashbuckler, we started with Never Ending. That was one of the first songs. We headed up to Baltimore, actually. I had talked to Rockness Monster from Helter Skelter years prior. I'd been in communication with him, and I had communicated to him about doing a song together when he was in town. Boot Camp was in town. We had actually spoke to Price, too. So the idea was to do a song with Helter Skelter.
Yeah, because you interviewed Price. You had a relationship with Price, too.
I met both of them the same time. Like when we were talking about, before I started the label, this documentary.
Right.
Helter Skelter was one of the first interviews I did.
Yep.
And they came to me after, and they said, you seem like you're really into film. I said, absolutely. I went to film school, all this stuff. Right. And I continued a conversation with Rock, and that led to us being able to do this Helter Skelter song.
Right.
So we drive up. It's a work night, right? Weeknight.
Yeah, I had to work the next day. I actually did work the next day.
We live about an hour and a half from Baltimore. It's about an hour and a half, right?
Yeah, give or take.
Okay.
Traffic, right? But at nighttime, at that time, yeah.
Hip hop shows, doesn't matter if it's during the week or on the weekend. They start late. So we got up to Baltimore, must have been around 11 o'clock or so. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
We get up there about 11 o'clock. We watch the show. We end up picking them up. It's probably about 12:30. And at this point, Drew Ha's brother, Noha, is the tour manager of this. And he comes up to me and he says, I understand you want to do a Helter Skelter song. And I said, yeah, that's the idea. And he goes, that doesn't just happen. That's a thing. I said, really? And he goes, I need to call and speak with Drew about this. So we had actually drove all the way up there. We communicated everything, and we were still kind of like in the wings trying to find out if this was going to happen or not. Everything ends up getting cleared, and we end up driving an hour and a half south to start working. Car ride there, Sean Price, I think he stepped in the car and he fell asleep immediately. And then the whole car ride.
It wasn't long after you got in the car.
We're just driving down there. We get there. It must be like 2 o'clock in the morning when we start.
God, yeah. It's wild how much we got done, how fast we did.
Like, yeah, ridiculous,
how far
too.
away we live.
Yeah, we were playing the joints the second that got in the car. We were playing the songs the second
they didn't
they got
start
in the
writing
car.
until we got back to the studio.
Right. They get back to the studio. Rock starts writing. Price is upstairs, I think, writing. Rock's down in the studio writing. They both knock out the song together, and then they each did a verse as well, separately. It's 5:00 in the morning, and they're getting ready to leave to their next tour stop. So everybody else on tour went back to the hotel. They've now woke up again, and they're getting ready to drive to the next city. So we've got to drive them back to Baltimore.
Right.
So we hop back in Fifth's car, drive to Baltimore,
Yep.
drop them off, and then Fifth drives me back to my house, and then
I had to drive all the way to work and drive around all day for work. It was a long day, period.
But it's the sacrifice that went into it, you know,
exactly.
and it's ridiculous. In my opinion, which that and $1.50 gets you a cup of coffee, it's one of my favorite.
Man, that was a crazy experience, just period. Like, you know, hanging with those cats. Sean's not here no more. You know, it's like, you know, it was definitely something special, man. That song, like, man.
So we get the Swashbuckler together. Along that way, though, I met Killer Priest. I met Killer Priest because of Capadonna. So Cap is the kind of guy who, when you're talking to him, you'll talk to him on a Friday, and then the next day he might say, yo, Wu-Tang's got a show in Jersey. You want to go?
Yeah.
So, yeah, of course I want to go.
Jump on it.
Yeah, of course. So he literally called me an hour and a half, couple hours before they were opening the doors.
Crazy.
So it was like,
yeah, it sounds like Cap.
Yeah, we
Last
were
minute.
rushing up there. He said, bring the camera, bring the sound gear, come up here and do some filming. So we rushed up there, did a little bit of filming. It was wild. And that's when I met Priest. So I met Priest.
That was the
Cap.
first time you met Killer Priest. Was at that show.
Was at that show,
you
yeah.
telling me that,
Yep.
Right.
I met Priest at that show. At the end of the night, we were walking out with Cap, and it was Cap and Priest and the rest of us, and we're walking out. So that's how I met those guys. And we ended up, because of that relationship, we ended up doing the project with Priest. It was Dustin, Count Fif,
we brought him back after, you know, we brought him down for a show, and we ended up doing a couple of songs with him. But like I had the chance to really hang out with him and playing beats and stuff. And man, he heard a couple of them, and he's like, "Yo, I want to rap to that." You know, I was like, "All right, well, that's the joint we're gonna do." So yeah, so then there's, you know, and it built a relationship from there. But yeah,
brought him down. We started working on the 3-day theory. We drove up. At the time, I was doing real estate.
the Hummer.
Yep. The guy I was working with at the time, he actually owned 2 Hummers. So he had wrapped both of them, and he had given me one to drive at the time.
Yep.
So I was driving the Hummer around for advertisement.
Yep.
Not the smartest car to drive to New York. Comfortable, but gas mileage wise.
Yo, very comfortable.
Yeah.
Nah, I mean, whatever. You're gonna lose. You got tolls and gas. Yeah, I mean,
It was comfortable though, super comfortable, but
it was very comfortable. It was
Yeah.
spacious.
we had to stop and fill up, I think, more than once. Anyway, we drive all the way up. We pick up Priest. Priest gets in the car. Second gets in the car, we just start cranking beats. And we brought Pulse with us. So Pulse and Priest are in the back, and they wrote a joint on the way back. As soon as we get back to Fifth's house, we start recording. For the next couple of days, it's just 24-hour recording session. And that's how that project really came together, you know, and it's just taking advantage of situations like that where, you know, we were young, where Fifth could blow off his job for a week, where we had a little bit of extra money that we could put together to make something like that happen. And that's became the 3-day theory. But as we start putting all this stuff together, there's no owner's manual for how to start a record label. So you're trying to make moves, put things together, and the industry's changing. So we're at the same time looking for distribution. the first company we went to was Caroline. So we got distribution through Caroline, and Caroline folded, like right after. The next company,
it was literally like, "What's up with the deal?" It was like, "Oh, well, Caroline folded."
yeah.
So it didn't even go through. It wasn't.
We were extremely excited because Caroline is what had really
They
helped
distributed
Def
a lot of the artists that we had.
The next up was Selecto Hits.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
we had to deal with them. So along the way,
Necro used to deal with.
yeah, that's because of Necro. I had gotten the relationship, lucky enough, because of Necro. Now, after this Kill a Priest album, right around the same time, this is when we started working on this project with You God. This is the Machine Gun Funk project. This project really was going to be something really big for us. So we had started reaching out to a bunch of producers. We had reached out to Necro. That's how we had met Necro, actually. Fifth did quite a few beats on that. You God came down, we recorded, and that's how we got the Select distribution. So when the Machine Gun Funk record didn't work out, Selecta Hits didn't work out. So that's when we ended up going to Traffic. We did one project with Traffic, just Megahertz.
I think so.
Yep. And moved on. So that's when we moved on to Fat Beats.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up working with Fat Beats for a couple of projects. We did the Kill a Priest project with Fat Beats, actually.
We did Vast Air.
Yep. We did the Vast project. We did a couple copy projects with them. And then we ended up moving on to In Grooves. That was
basically just straight independent at that point. In Grooves was just digital. You know what
just
I mean?
doing digital for us. Yeah, they were doing some CD for us still.
But that's the same thing that your TuneCores or your what's the other DistroKid. Yeah. So yeah, it's more like those now, but like at that time, so it was like Sony, or Universal. It was Universal, right? Yeah, In Grooves is Universal.
2012, we actually got a studio space / office space. We went out to George Mason, that same school we were talking about earlier, and we got some interns from there.
Yep.
We had a studio set up there.
Gotta utilize that, this college, big college. Hey, they went to the Final Four a few years back. Shit.
Yeah, so we ended up getting a couple interns from them. That's the year that we ended up going to South by Southwest. We did A3C. We did a couple of these festivals. Really expanded everything, and then started looking towards opening the store. So that's when Records and Rarities came about, which is the record store. Then 2014, we opened that. Really took a lot of our attention for several years. We did release a number of projects in between, but really...
we signed Rock Marciano, we started working.
Yeah, we had the AG the Corner, the SAS album.
There's a lot of records. I mean, if you know at this point, Man Bites Dog Records, and if you know anything about the record label, if you from the story at this point on, I mean, we just there was a lot of things that were happening at the same time, and a lot of things that that happened. So at that point, it was like full fledged. We were rocking and rolling.
We ended up starting this record store, and then...
but then it slowed things down is what it was kind of getting
our
at.
focus started getting towards on
Right.
that. We were still releasing projects. We ended up working with Uncommon NASA.
Yep.
And then fifth, he ends up having kids.
Yep.
Life happens. A lot of people listening to this probably have kids.
For sure.
So here we are. In the meantime, we started cranking again. I'd say 2020. We started cranking again. So we started working on, that's when we started Numero Un, right?
Grinding. Yeah, I started building Numero Un. I mean, I'd already started building the beats for Soul Chakra, and I'd been talking about it, and I had different names for it. And it kind of jumped around ideas about it and how I wanted to do it. And then it ended up ultimately being what it was. But yeah, I mean, I was working on Numero Un. We started getting features, started trying to figure out who we wanted to get on it because it was more of a compilation with MCs on it. So, a couple instrumentals, but we wanted to, do something a little different. So, yeah,
Well, there was always been projects that were going to come out. It was just a matter of timing. We had started working on a project with Guilty Simpson. We'd started working on a project with Oh No. And of course, we had the projects with Copywrite. The High Exalted Part 2 was going to happen. It was just a matter of timing. So that's kind of the segue that we're in right now. The first guest that we're going to have for this episode is going to be Copywrite. Now, I met Copywrite at a show that we put on at Jack's. It was R.A. the Rugged Man and Copywrite. I was a fan of Copywrite. I had first heard him because of the Eastern Conference record stuff, mostly through Cage. I found Cage when I was at film school. I think it was the illest four-letter word. Somebody had played that for me, and like another diss song on Eminem. I was like, man, it's crazy. And then I also heard the Eminem thing, like, who is this, Cage? You know, the joint on that first album?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, so when I first heard Copy, I was pretty blown. When did you first hear Copy?
I think it was like the Eastern Conference, some of the Eastern Conference stuff, but Revenge of the Robots DVD, when he was on tour with LP and Cage and everybody, and he was rapping with, again, all the Eastern Conference guys, and that's really where I first heard him and saw who he was. Yeah, I thought he was dope. He was different. His punchlines were crazy,
At the time that he was doing the show, he was actually dating a girl in Maryland.
Yeah.
So he ended up
Yeah, I
moving.
remember that. Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he was in New York or Ohio at the time, but he ended up moving from wherever to Maryland.
Spring,
And he needed a recording studio. So he was actually coming down to the house I was living in because my roommate at the time had a studio in the basement, and he was recording at the studio. So my first interaction with him was booking him at the show, and then he's coming over and he's recording in the studio in the basement. And then it took about a year or two of me talking to him, developing the label, growing to really start working on doing the Life and Times project. So we did the Life and Times, we did God Save the King, we ended up doing the Megahertz project, and then most recently we did, the Christmas project, the XXXmas, and we also did the High Exalted Part 2. And now we're getting ready for the second part of that record. So I'm going to have Copy. We're going to have Copy come on in a couple of minutes. We're going to be talking to him about a few things. Now, Kount Fif and him, they actually are working on a project too. So we're going to talk about that too. So let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and get him on the phone now. We're here right now. We've got Copywrite on the phone. We were just talking about the first time we met. That was the R.A. the Rugged Man show at Jack's.
Yep.
So at that time, where were you living?
I think I was living in Columbus at that time.
And then you ended up moving to Maryland, right? To be with.
Oh shit! I may have been already in Maryland for real. Yeah. I was living in like Silver Spring.
Living with Sherry, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then that's when we started working. You were coming over to my house at the time and recording at Dan's studio in the basement.
Yep.
And then we ended up, about a year later or so, you ended up moving to Virginia, and we started working on Life and Times.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so let's catch everybody up to where we're currently at. So currently, we just released the High Exalted Part 2, Scene A. Now we've got Scene B coming up. Before that, though, you've got an instrumental album you're dropping, right?
Yeah, the 9th of December.
Okay. And what's the name of it?
Your Garbage Kid. And it's based on the Garbage Pail Kid.
Nice.
Artwork. Yeah.
Nice. Super Ugly did that, right?
Right. Yeah. Shout out Super Ugly.
Okay. And you've got, 32 beats on there?
Yep.
32 beats.
32 new ones, yep. Yeah, man, I can't wait. I'm excited for it to drop. It's my first instrumental album, man, as you know, so I'm excited, man.
So beyond the instrumental album, you've got High Exalted 2, Scene B, which is almost done, right?
Yeah, it's in the final mixing stages right now.
Okay. You've got a project that you and Count Fifth and Awol One worked on, right?
Yeah, man, that shit came out crazy.
Yeah, man.
So you've also got something you're working on with Jay Rawls, right?
Yeah, that, me, Nico, and Ross. Who else is on the phone? Fifth?
Yeah,
I'm
Fifth is
here.
here.
Peace,
Yep.
peace. What up?
bro? Peace, family. How you doing?
I'm blessed. I'm good.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Working on the shit with me, Nico, and Jay Ross. It's just about done. It's like a couple, maybe like 4 verses away from being done.
Now, let me ask you, Pete, what is your favorite album that you've made?
The Megahertz Legacy one, bro.
Yeah, man.
Hey, even though that's not a solo album, that's my favorite one. Now, if we're talking solo, I might have to go with Life and Times.
I fuck with that.
When you talk to the fans, what's the feedback you get from them? What's their favorite project?
It kind of varies, man. Some people say there's people that say High Exalted. It's either High Exalted, Life and Times, or God Save the King. Usually is what they say.
Nice. That's dope.
Yeah.
What's your favorite cover?
Shit, man. Man, I don't know. Maybe that Megahertz Legacy one.
Yeah, that's pretty sick.
Always have good art though. The art's always fly.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, that was who did that? Mike or Chris Murray, right?
Yeah. It's a comic book artist.
He's a beast. He went on to do. He's doing like a whole lot of shit right now.
Yeah, I think he did something with Nike at one point.
Yep,
Crazy.
I think I see.
Big stuff. So what are you excited about coming up next year, 2023? What's your biggest thing you're excited for?
I'm excited for the Mighty My project still, bro.
Yeah.
You know, I'm excited for the Mighty My shit to drop, and also I want to do some more instrumental albums. But yeah, man, I'm excited to go. You know, to maybe hit the road on some of these projects by that time. You know.
Yeah. Yep. So how's everything else going with you?
Everything else is cool, man. Just trying to avoid this. It's starting to get cold as fuck out here. Is it starting to get cold out there?
It sure is.
Yeah, man.
Tell us real quick about the voice acting.
Oh yeah, okay. So I got signed as a voice over actor with Helen Wells as an agency here in Columbus and in Indianapolis and in the Midwest. But I've yet to land anything though. So I'm still like, I still do a bunch of auditions and shit. But man, it's crazy. There's a whole science to it. Like, you know, most of the commercials have to be like 30 seconds or 60 seconds. So you have to say the whole shit, the script that they have, and just be able to fit it within 30 seconds. And say, you know, so it's kind of crazy, man. But I've yet to land anything. I've turned in quite a few things, but I'm gonna keep trying.
Speaking of auditions, you auditioned for a pretty big HBO show.
Yeah, Euphoria.
That was pretty crazy. I saw your audition tape. It was actually really, really good.
I appreciate it, man. You know what I didn't realize back then is when they tell you, they said hot-headed, and when they say that, they want you to be just that. They want you to be angry and shit. And I didn't really know how to. I didn't really even know how to follow direction like that and all that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like based on what it said. But yeah, it was still exciting. It was still a good opportunity, and it's what got me wanting to do acting and shit. So I've been in 2 acting classes since then. So I understand the shit a whole lot better now.
Are you having fun with it?
Yeah, it's super fun. Shit's super fun.
It's fantastic, man.
It's a lot of work, though, man. It's a lot of memorizing and shit,
Yeah,
man. It's
it
a
is.
whole lot of work.
The memory thing is crazy. You got to be sharp with memorizing. Yeah, man, it's tough.
Now, speaking about a lot of work, Pete, there's also something that you've been working on for a while, and that's the High Exalted Strain, right?
Yeah, that it's coming out. Should be done pretty, like 2023 should be out with Steel City Homegrown out of Canada. Yep, I'm excited about that, man. That shit's gonna be crazy.
Can you tell us anything about it?
Yeah, basically what it is I mean the way I linked up with Homeboy was you know, Anton over there at Steel City. Shout out to him. I approached him because I saw that he was a grower, you know, and this is an idea that I had kicked around for a while. I remember you and me talked about it, Ryan, about if there was, you know, having a strain and shit like that and releasing it with an album. So I approached him and he was with it. And basically I told him what type of strain I wanted to be, how potent I wanted to be. and we came up with the different strains, and then he went through the phases where he just has to, I'm not a grower, but it's a bunch of different phases that he has to go through to get the final tree and to get the final seed also.
Now, have you been able to smoke any of it yet?
Nah, man, I can't wait.
What do you know? What can you tell us? What are the parents?
I don't want to say yet because I don't want anyone to duplicate it. But I'll tell you in private. But I don't want to say it just yet. Not until it's out.
Okay.
Then it'll be on the bag anyway.
Yep. That's so exciting, brother.
Yeah, man.
Super exciting. So, real quick, I want to ask you. I'm going to ask you, who's your favorite producer?
Like period, huh?
Period.
All that shit.
Yep.
Damn, man, I'm probably gonna have to go with Dilla.
Okay. Favorite Dilla produced song?
Let me think, man. It might be Untitled off Slum Village, Fantastic 2. There's a lot though. That's hard to say, but that's one of my favorite ones. It's Untitled.
Okay.
Yeah, Slum Village song off Fantastic Volume 2.
Favorite rapper?
Shit, man, of all time.
Yep.
I might have to go with Rakim.
Favorite Rakim song?
Shit, man, it's probably gonna be. I might have to go with I Ain't No Joke, man.
Not 18th Letter.
Nah, there's a lot of shit on that album I like, but I'm just gonna go with I Ain't No Joke just because of the time that it came out, how advanced it was when it came out.
Did you like the 18th Letter when it came out?
Yeah, hell yeah. The shit that Pete Rock did on there is fucking crazy, and the shit, obviously the shit that Primo did. I know Clark Kent had some joints on there, but nah, I fuck with that album heavy, man. I was happy when that album came out.
What's the first Rakim song you ever heard?
I think it was I Ain't No Joke, man.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
It was either I Ain't No Joke or Paid in Full for sure.
Word. See, that's when you hear something like for the first time like that, and it like there's nothing like it. You know what I mean? So I can see how that could be. Why the influence is there with that. That's dope.
Yeah, like when you hear the first. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's like it. There's nothing like it. It's like it changes your life basically. It's like, wait a minute. You know what I mean? Like your whole perspective on rap changes. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Yep.
Now, where can people keep up with you at? You've got Instagram, of course, right?
Yeah, I'm mostly on Instagram. I don't really fuck with Facebook that much, but definitely on Instagram. It's copyright_MC78 at Instagram.com or whatever the fuck.
It's at whateverthefuck.com. That's right.
I'm getting the old man syndrome right now and shit.
All right, well, it's always good talking with you, Pete. Take care, brother, and we're excited for new music coming out.
Y'all too, man. Yo, Fif, man. Good, man. Can't wait to keep killing them with the shit we got with the Awol One shit, man. That shit is crazy.
Shit is crazy, bro. The artwork, everything is. I'm really excited about it, man. We're working to get this shit ready to go.
In fact, you know what? Let's go ahead and play a little snippet for him right now. What do you think of that?
Yeah.
Fuck it. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, thanks again for coming out and joining us, Pete.
Yo, nothing but love, y'all. Appreciate y'all.
Yo,
All right,
peace,
man.
brother.
Peace.
Check one, motherfucking two. Hey. Check. And now a word from our sponsor. Check. Look, this is for cops of 70s babies whose parents did drugs heavenly, baby, but still cherish the love when it seemed crazy. Shit, I swear to the altar on Christ, it's like I've been possessed by the ghost of Sean Price.
All right. So turn that off. All right, that's all they get, bro. We can't play the whole thing. It's not coming out just yet.
I know.
All right, so that was it. This is the end.
Zoned out, just bumping it.
This is the end of the first podcast or whatever. So
Man Bites Dog.
Yeah, we're wrapping it up. We had Copy on. We're going to be doing another one of these shortly, so it'll be coming out shortly.
Stay tuned.
We're going to have more guests on. The next episode, we're going to have 2 guests on. We're going to have Blacklick, and we're also going to have Dub Sonata. Blacklick's going to be talking about his project with producer Obliv, and Dub Sonata is going to be talking about Tranquilizer Dart, and he's also going to be talking about Nights in Cuba. So make sure that you check out the next podcast.
Yep. Stay tuned. It's going to keep getting doper and doper. We promise you.
And while you're at it, go ahead and check out the Swashbuckler and Count Fif numero un and Soul Chakra and all the copyrights. And you know what? Just go to our Bandcamp.com.
Man Bites Dog
Records.
Records.
It's all there. All right. We'll see you next time.
Peace.